Hey guys, we're back with the next episode of Sryth, our fantasy text-based RPG. Thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. We're doing the Grand Ring Solundor's Grand Ring of Illusion tournament. We've done 4 rounds, and so we're on round 5. So let's just get going with that. Hope you're having a great day. Three champions. All around you throughout the forest a brutal battle rages. Spear-wielding mountain goblins, their shrill war cries echoing off the ancient hardwoods pour down from the nearby hillsides, relentlessly assailing the stalwart line of knights and border rangers who, for the better part of the entire day, have managed to hold the savage enemy at bay. You stand at the southern end of the longest arm of the defending line, and the ground about your feet is littered with the remains of many goblins who met their fate this day by your hand. Suddenly, you spot 3 border rangers pitching a desperate battle against armored mountain goblin. The goblin, his face concealed behind the visor of his full helm, was a serrated broadsword with devastating effect. The 3 border rangers engaged with him cry out in agony as they are struck down by his furious attack. There's no time. You sprint toward the armored goblin, eager to avenge the fallen rangers. You only cover 10 yards when the scene around you freezes and the familiar apparition of Solundor appears. The Battle of Fallen Trees, says Solundor, glancing around at the frozen but nonetheless gruesome scene. Perhaps the last true, decisive battle of man and goblin. It is a battle that's the largest number of the cruel breed in to retreat for a good many years, and I am honoured to have played a role in it, though certainly not one that placed me in the midst of the melee. Solundor points to an armoured goblin and begin to rush toward. As you begin to rush toward, this is the final day of the battle, he says. 3 goblin champions appear on that day, most likely a last-ditch attempt by the goblin commanders to regain their hold on the field. I need not tell you how it ended, for no one is unable to recall the charge of 6, led by Tallies, which put down the trio of fearsome goblin warriors and broke what remains of the enemy spirit. On this day, Alison, it is you, and only you, who must defeat each of these 2 goblin champions. I wish you luck. Solundor's apparition disappears, and the scene about you and all of its horror springs back to life. You once again resume your charge toward the armored goblin champion, whose serrated blade now drips with the blood of slain rangers. He's doing a lot of memory work, like bringing up stuff from his past, which I find very interesting. You're within 20 yards of the armored goblin champion when he turns and faces you. The cruel slayer snarls viciously and moves forward to meet your charge, his bloodstained blade poised to strike you a grievous blow. The goblin champion strikes the ground at your feet and does not move again. You turn to find that the second of these fearsome goblins, a stout axe-wielding creature, has just finished off 2 Tisine knights and decided to move in your direction. Brazenly step forward to meet his advance. The third and final goblin champion appears to be the worst of the lot. A worn leather strap encircles the repulsive humanoid head, from which dangles an impressive and not gruesome collection of what looks like dragon talons. The spear-wielding menace moves swiftly towards you, his stone-tipped instrument of battle poised to run through you. We're gonna lose us now. The rallying cry goes up for the knights and the rangers holding the forest line. Your victory over the 3 goblin champions has renewed their spirit and serves to break the will of the enemy. The goblins, who were so close to tasting victory, now flee wildly, scattering into the dense undergrowth. Those once again begin to shift and blur. Yeah. Well done, Alison. Thank you. That was a quick round. So we might be able to get through 5 today. Next one. One giant problem. You find yourself standing at the edge of a well-worn road that passes directly to the center of a small village. A loud, angry voice to your right spins your head in that direction, and your heart skips a beat when your eyes fall upon its source. Only 10 yards from you, towering over a group of cowering villagers as a mountain giant. The cruel, massive humanoid appears to be in process of demanding tribute from the village. The villagers seem to be in the awkward and dangerous position of trying to explain to the giant that they cannot afford that which he demands. Since the villagers will be unable to persuade the cruel behemoth to leave them be, you strike forward boldly as the giants leave, though momentarily taken aback by your sudden appearance and your brazen tactics. The giant recovers his wit and laughs heartily. Then suddenly, without warning, he picks you up off the ground and hurls your hand into the air across the road. Wow. You silently count your blessings when the rapid descent to the ground suddenly is broken by a large amount of hay. You climb out of the pile of hay and move to the edge of the road, your eyes fixed on the towering mountain giant that continues to threaten helpless, cowering villagers. What's horsemanship gonna do? Thievery sounds fun. After taking a few minutes to set up a series of devious snares, you stride boldly into the center of the road, which upon the giant stands and vocally taunt the crowd, towering humanoid. The cruel towering humanoid. The mountain giant rushes after you, but is led directly to the field of snares, and his feet become tangled in several pieces of taut rope, sending him crashing to the ground. He regains his feet amidst a hail of curses, but is now hampered by a severe limp. The wounded giant curses at you before turning and limping out of the village. Pursue the fleeing giant and attack him. Attack. You swiftly overtake the wounded giant and launch your attack despite his wounds. The giant seems perfectly capable of defending himself. See yourself for a brutal melee. Kill. Like I said, you can't let these things go. He's just going to be back later. The victory of the mountain giant met with cries of joy from the villagers who were only a few minutes ago at the mercy of the cruel being. One of the villagers, a dark-haired man with two small children inside, approaches you, fighting back emotionally. Thank you for saving his family and his home. About to respond when suddenly your surroundings begin to blur and shift. Let me respond. Seeing around you gradually returns to focus. You again find yourself standing in the middle of the circle of stones in Dragon Hill Fields. 6th round victory screen. Woo! Alright, also another short one. That's shorter than the last one. 7th round. A shrill crackling. Oh yeah. The Curse of Trinhakes. You stand in the tall grass behind a small, dilapidated wooden dwelling. The sun has long gone down, leaving in its wake a black, cloudless, star-filled sky. All around the dwelling stands barren trees, which, along with the chill in the air, betray the season as late autumn. Light pours out of the small dwelling to the plentiful spaces between the rotting timbers that make up its walls, and from an area window only a few feet away from you, you're about to step forward and peer into the window. You can discover just what Solundor has in store for you this time, when the wall next to you explodes in a shower of dust and jagged timber fragments. Suddenly the scene around you freezes and the glowing apparition of Solundor appears. You are Trinhakes. You're in Trinhakes 50 years before your own birth, says Solundor. Do you indeed? For those who don't now recall the tale of the Curse of Trinhakes, I dare say it still firmly roots in the mind of those who still call the village home. Solundor explains to you and to the tournament spectators that many years ago the son of one of the Trinhakes' village elders was cursed with horrifying affliction that results in almost a decade of terror for the village and the nearby countryside. The son was an aspiring mage of extraordinary talent, continues Solundor. As fate would have it, though, he could not climb out from beneath the shadow of this curse. It eventually brought about his end on a cold, late autumn evening, much like this one I've laboured to recreate. His own brother, a Tissian soldier, said to have ended the curse in a brief but brutal showdown. It's now your turn, Elton, to attempt to do the same. Good luck. Solundor's apparition disappears and the scene about you instantly springs back to life. You shout with a rain of dust, splinters, and several large chunks of shattered wood, as what appears to be a large bear smashes through the wall of the dwelling and lands only 5 yards from you. You step back and assume a defensive stance. As the massive bear creature rises up on 2 legs in the sand before you, its barrel-sized chest heaving and its lips curled back in a vicious snarl. Your pulse races as you note that more human features of the beast's face and arms. There's little doubt that the creature standing before you is a werebear, a human who assumed bear form, and very likely the center of the curse of Trinitax. The werebear swipes the air with its thick arm and snarls. You sense that an attack is imminent. We already used thievery, so we'll go with something else. Having already noticed the broad tree limb passing overhead within reach, you spring upward and grab onto the branch with both hands. The werebear snarls and lunges forward, but you're prepared to defend yourself. You swing back on the branch, dodging the creature's attack, and on the return swing, you plant both of your feet solidly in the middle of the gruesome lycanthrope's face. The force of your devastating blow momentarily staggers the beast. The wounded werebear roars in agony as you drop from the branch and prepare to engage it. Despite the serious wounds it has suffered at your hands, the werebear remains an extremely powerful and deadly combatant. Thankful that the savage snarling creature before you is only an elaborate illusion, but most eager to put it down, you launch a frenzied assault upon the face of lycanthrope. Ghastly cry escapes from the open mouth of the dying werebear as it thrashes about violently on the ground before you. The savage lycanthrope, its carcass shudders, and you're momentarily taken aback by its rapid transformation into the unarmed body of a young man. The man opens his eyes and whispers and sounds like thank you before disappearing in a thick cloud of mist that seeps up from the ground beneath him. Suddenly you surround begin to shift and blur. Oh, it's the mage he mentioned. The scenery around you gradually returns to focus, and you once again find yourself standing in the middle of the circle of stones in Dragon Hill Fields. The deafening roar of the crowd signals that your victory in this, the 7th round of Solundor's Ring of Illusion. Solundor himself strides out from the field and congratulates your victory. The last illusionist then is courteously escorts you out of the Ring of Stones. Yes, well done. You will have to try harder, that's true. Next one. The gathered onlookers rise, cheering wildly as you take to the field and stride perfectly into the center of the circle of stone. The 8th round of Solundor's Grand Ring of Illusion is about to get in the way. A sorceress scorned. When the scene surrounding you comes back into focus, you find yourself standing at one end of the large, cluttered, circular chamber. Several wooden tables, the surface covered with scrolls and books and vials, clothe the center of the room. A long window, narrow and shuttered, is set into the far wall. In a pair of shallow recesses that flank the window, standing in the life-size statues of 2 hideous ogres. Your insolence in the face of inevitable destruction is insulting. Sounds an angry voice from your right. You turn to see his tall, white-bearded man standing only a few feet away. His withered hands grip a tall wooden staff, and the top edges of which are fitted with a sharp blade. The young man who you assume to be some sort of mage, strikes the stone floor with the butt of his staff. "You have something that belongs to me, thief," he growls. "I'd ask that you return the rings to me, but I'd rather think I would enjoy plucking them from your roasted corpse." You're somewhat thankful when the scene suddenly freezes and the familiar apparition of Solundor appears. "Mighty Losrock," says Solundor, nodding in the direction of the white-bearded man who moments ago threatened you with death. "Sorcerer of great power, and a man who once had great influence in the kingdom of Tissa, while a tragic death at the hand of an arcane spy almost 200 years ago. Until Solundor tells you that on the night of his death 2 centuries ago, Losrock confronted an arcane spy in the topmost chamber of his tower. The thief had just filched 5 enchanted rings and held the wealth of the sorcerer's knowledge was about to make good his escape when he was surprised by the enraged sorcerer. Unfortunately for you, Alison, for the purpose of our tournament, you were that arcane spy. Take flight and stick around and fight the choices you want to make. Good luck." The apparition of the master illusionist fades from view. The scene about you, the sorcerer dies, doesn't he? The mind races you, attempt to quickly determine your next course of action against a dangerous foe. Attack! You snatch up the skull of some of the small rodent in the nearby table and hurl it at the sorcerer. The white-bearded man throws up his hands in front of his face to deflect the hurtling projectile. You leap forward, prepare to strike down on one man's hand between you and the successful completion of Solundor's devilish illusion. Or you can reach around wherever your foe recovers sufficiently enough to raise his wooden staff. The tip of his bladed staff goes right into your horror. The two stone ogres in the small recesses did the window begin to move. Lodge Rock, a sinister laugh fills the chamber as he falls back, allowing his two fearsome stone minions to intercede. You assume a combat-ready stance as you prepare to take on the first of the stone ogres. Fight! The ogre crumbles into a pile of rubble at your feet, but immediately is replaced by the second stone beast. Step over. The shatter remains of the stone ogre and boldly approach the dangerous mage. An unwise decision, thief, growls Lozrock, brandishing his bladed staff with an unnerving degree of skill. Undaunted by the display of combat prowess, you rush forward and barely engage the white-bearded sorcerer. Kill! The final blow sends Lozrock sprawling to the floor. As the cluttered chamber, he emits several ragged gasps, and with his dying breath curses at you. Turn and start for the window, thinking that you will still have a good escape from the tower to escape, but your surroundings suddenly begin to shift in blur. Congratulations. Alright, next one. Oh no, we might make it around 10. I mean, we will make it around 10, but will we make it past round 10? 1 egg, 2 egg, 3 egg, 4. You stand in what appears to be a large stone chamber. The ceiling and all the walls are shrouded in darkness, leaving you to believe that the space you occupy is an immense one. Lying on the ground in front of you, bathed in the ghostly light that fills the seemingly cavernous room, are 4 brightly coloured eggs, each of them roughly 4 times your size. What? You stare in wonder at the massive eggs, red, blue, green, and yellow, and wonder, actually dread what it is they might enclose. To your left, a few feet away, sits a wood-hafted hammer with a heavy iron head. Your eyes instinctively draw back to the 4 eggs as each of them begin to quiver. Oh no. You've nearly forgotten that the stranger suddenly seen before you is all an elaborate illusion, when suddenly your surroundings freeze and a glowing apparition of Solundor appears. Each of these beauties contains a deadly enemy, says Solundor, his eyes moving back and forth across the line of brightly hued eggs. You may be able to discover which of the eggs holds the least dangerous foe. That will be tricky to be sure. I wish you the best of luck, Alison. You quickly ask Solundor if he has ever encountered anything like this, and it's eventually laughs in reply. I've had my share of adventures, Alison, and beheld many strange things, but if I'd ever seen anything like this, I can assure you that it would have been my very last adventure. As the apparition of the master illusionist fades from view, the scene around you springs back to life. 4 eggs begin to quiver. I see. So now he's just making stuff up. Hearing the words of Solundor, you move up and closely examine the 4 quivering eggs. You attempt to determine which of them will likely to contain the least dangerous foe. Maybe I want the most dangerous foe. This is a tournament. You can imagine at the very moment a few number of spectators are having a good laugh at your expense. Determined based on the wide array of factors, the green eggs like to hold the least dangerous creature. Hoping that your deduction will prove to be correct, you pick up the hammer and begin to crack open the egg. Egg beast? Almost the exact instant you land to blow your hammer, the top half of the egg explodes and a volley of jagged shell shards rain down at you. Emerging from the shattered remains of the egg is one of the most hideous creatures you've ever had the misfortune of viewing. The towering beast climb out of the ruined shells with the lower body of a large black feathered bird and the upper torso of a cake. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Almost the exact instant you land, you're blowing your ham on with the hammer. The top half of the egg explodes and a volley of jagged shards rain down at you. Emerging from the shattered remains of the egg is one of the most hideous creatures you've ever had the misfortune of viewing. The towering beast climbing out of the ruined shell has the lower body of a large black feathered bird The upper torso of a cave troll. From the middle of the creature's snarling, gruesome face stands a long, sharp, but golden beak. The strange creature scratches open its beak, in out of which soars the cheerful melody of the songbird. You envision the crowd of spectators laughing uproariously as you scruff against a comical, although assuredly dangerous abomination. Okay. The creature emits a gurgling cry of death as it pitches forward and strikes the stone floor face first. It does not move again. Half expecting for the illusion to come to an end, you are shocked when suddenly the second of the horrifying beast emerges from the shattered remains of the egg. Silently cursing Solundor, you plant your feet and hold your ground as the horrid monster moves steadily towards you. Some kind of egg beast. Interesting. You gaze down at the carcass of the two strange beasts, praying that Solundor fabricated in from the torment, and there is no possible chance you will ever encounter one again. Suddenly the other eggs suddenly cracks into your pulse racing. You look in horror as the three remaining eggs begin to slowly split open. Suddenly, now the moment you see the scene about you shifts and blurs. You're like, I hope you ain't got none of this. You look. Speaking of, I haven't done my quickstone in a minute. Oh, it keeps it cumulatively. That's nice. Tallies. So he's friends with Tallies. Okay, let's save. Right, we're in the 10th round. Woo-hoo. So that means we've done 6 this episode, and good timing. March of the Wooden Soldiers. You find yourself standing in the middle of the broad road leading to the midst of the small town. All around you, bathed in the bright afternoon sunshine, are the signs that a brutal fight was waged here. Broken and discarded weapons lie scattered from one side of the road to the other, and here and there you spot curious piles of smashed wood. Suddenly, the sound of feet falling in step from behind spins you around, and you behold a strange and terrifying sight. Marching along the road towards you in a straight column are what you can only describe as 3 wooden soldiers. The strange wooden men are all roughly your size, with limbs and torsos crafted out of hard, rough-hewn wood. Each of them wears a green tabard and clutches a sharpened oaken sword. The heads of these wooden beings are little more than blocks of wood that have been carved to bear only the crudest resemblance to a human face. The silent soldier continues to march along the road towards you, their moving emotionless gazes focused straight ahead. Behold, Allison, the town of Girdhall, as it was in the waning months of summer 300 years ago. How do you know what it was like 300 years ago? Are you old like that? No shadow magic, which makes extend your life. This is the very first attack of the wooden soldiers, and luckily enough for you, your goal is to defeat it. The odd beings, creation of the sorceress Thistera, played the countryside of Western Teaser for nearly a year. She believed that a wooden army would allow her to challenge the crown for the control of the kingdom. It is a rather hopeful notion on her part, as history will bear witness. Nevertheless, here you are, my friend, and I wish you luck against them. You asked Solundor what befell Girdhall during this first invasion. He told you that fortune was on their side that fateful day. A lone hero and adventurer, you might say, much like yourself. Allison arrived in town just prior to the attack. She led the counterattack and drove them out. After the battle, it is said that she rode off before giving a name to anyone. A small mystery that will likely stand for all time. Solundor's apparition rapidly fades, and the scene about you quickly returns to life. Or Solundor is not actually doing illusions, but dropping us in through time. The 3 wooden soldiers. Three wooden soldiers, their inanimate, motionless faces focused on you, continue their approach. You move forward to meet their advance and quickly find yourself engaged with these strange beings. Yeah, rejuvenation. Second wooden soldier lurches forward, stepping over the remains of his slain kin and attacks. I mean, if you chop them up, although I'm sure a sword is not good for chopping up wood, as an axe would be. They're not flesh like humans or goblins. Of course, the scream reaches your ears as you step over the shattered remains of the wooden soldiers. Not far ahead, you spot a band of 4 of the wooden men advancing on a group of 7 unarmed townsfolk. The 2 men and 1 woman are doing their best to shield the 4 children cowering behind them as the merciless wooden soldiers march steadily toward them. Your sudden arrival draws an immediate attention of the wooden soldiers. You step between them and their intended victims and assume a defensive stance. Townfolk rush to safety, leaving you to face the enemy alone. First pair of wooden soldiers stride up to you and attack. The 2 remaining wooden soldiers step forward to replace the 2 that now lie broken on the ground at your feet. Suddenly turn away from the splintered remains of your foes, only find yourself confronted by 3 more wooden soldiers. Each of these wooden men bear a crossbow which is leveled at your chest. Before you can react, the trio looses their bolts and deadly missiles hurtle straight for you. You twist aside, narrowly dodging. With no desire to allow the wooden men another opportunity to fire, you boldly step forward to confront them. The 3 wooden soldiers cast aside their crossbows and draw sharp. Why is this camera always moving? Can we talk about that? The 3 wooden soldiers cast aside their crossbows and draw sharp oaken swords as one of the trio of wooden men advance upon you. You skirt to the left as they approach, making it so you only have to engage the first 2. Leap over the remains of the 2 wooden soldiers and bravely engage the 3rd. Without even a moment to catch your breath, you find yourself facing the onslaught of wooden soldiers. 7 of the stiff-legged menaces lurch at you from across the road, their sharpened wood swords poised to cut you down. You strategically position yourself to only have to face the first 3. Four remaining wooden soldiers step rigidly forward to replace the 3 that have just met their end at your hands. The 4 smashed wooden soldiers, whose splintered remains are piled at your feet, appear to be the last of them. All along the road leading into the small town, doors open and fearful, cautious townfolk slowly make their way outside to greet the stranger who single-handedly put down the first arm of the sorcerer's wooden regiment. At the corner of your eye, you spot something high above, and your eyes drift skyward where they behold a curious and unsettling sight. Circling high above the town is a blue-scaled dragon, and on the back of the massive beast sits a green-robed woman. The dragon continues to circle for nearly a minute before finally soaring off to the north. You've no doubt that you've just caught a glimpse of the sorceress, this Stara, gazing down, probably most unhappily at the ruin wrought upon her wooden force. As the townfolk begin to move swiftly towards you, their shouts of praise ringing out in all directions, your surroundings predictably begin to shift and blur. Alright, I think one more, since I had to make a pause. I'm probably going to try to delete that pause that I had to make, so you won't know, but I'm trying to make sure I make 30 minutes, so I think it was maybe like a 6-minute pause or something, so one more. Showdown in the end. You're standing in the far end of a wide alley. Behind you, the alleyway stops abruptly at a high wall, and before you, about 10 yards away, standing 7 fierce-looking men. 6 of the men hold weapons at the ready, while the 7th, much taller and larger than the rest, a great bearded brute, stands behind the crew, his thick, powerful hands planted firmly on his hips. In your eyes, all 7 in the eyes of all 7, you read murder. Well, you can hardly expect us to believe you are without gold, roars the towering bearded man. It is no matter to me how you wish to give it up, for we will have it all the same. My word is what goes around is stranger, and you will do well to remember that. Go on, have at her. 2 of the men, each wielding a wooden cudgel, start towards you, advancing cautiously but steadily. You assume a defensive stand, eager to do battle, and uncannily realistic characters of Solundor's latest illusion. The surroundings suddenly freeze, and the glowing apparition of the master illusionist appears. That rather ghastly bunch is one of the more lethal murder crews employed at the Ratnook by the Ratnik gang, says Solundor, gazing with notable derision. Oh, we're back to memories now. Upon the very illusionary villains he crafted, you might remember that the Ratnuks terrorized much of Sryth, particularly Gadarung's Inn, about 25 years ago. These 7, why would I remember that? I'm sure I'm a young 25-year-old myself. These 7 were meted justice at the hands of the adventurers who refused to hand over the gold, a good lesson for all thieves to take note of. Solundor points to the tall bearded man standing in the back of the group. He's a fearsomely immense physical specimen. That man is nothing other than Cobb Blackheart, said the illusionist. They say he slew over 100 men, though there are many who would put that figure substantially higher. You'll have your work cut out with him. I wish you continued luck, Alison. The scene around you immediately springs back to life, and you quickly find yourself engaged in a brutal melee with 2 cudgel-wielding thugs. Your 2 assailants lie dead at your feet. You step over the remains and stare hard at Cobb Blackheart and his merciless band of killers, but the towering leader just laughs. Go on, finish her up now, he sneers. We've wasted enough time and men on this wretch. The men standing just behind Cobb step into view and draw a long sword. He levels a blade at you and he begins a swift and bold advance. Archery! Your arrow slams into the swordman's chest, causing him to drop his blade and stagger backwards. He clutches desperately at the protruding shaft for several seconds before collapsing to the ground. He does not move again. One of the men standing next to the towering figure of Cobb Blackheart draws the dagger and rushes at you. You manage to dodge the dagger-wielding man and initial series of strikes, but the ferocity of his attacks force you back toward the end of the alley. With no further room for a tactical retreat, you finally plant your feet and engage your vicious assailant. We gonna do us now. Your enemy dagger drops from his hand and he staggers and pitches forward, striking the rain-damped street face first. Before you have even a moment to catch your breath, 2 more of the gang, each wielding small axes, rush forward, swinging up wildly at you. Two axe wielders slump to the ground, only to be immediately replaced by a tall man with a quarterstaff. The new assailant brandishes the staff with a high level of skill as he quickly launches his attack. So staff wielding foe now. It might be the cost of my own life, but on my word I'll crush your skull and take you with me, cries Cobb Blackheart as he lumbers forward, apparently preparing to battle you with his own only his bare hands. That's like the mountain in the Viper. He was so foolish. You're dismayed to note, however, that from the knuckles of each of the hulking brute's massive fists extends a deadly set of sharpened brass spikes. Gross. I've been living lonely. The rest of Ratnook gang, including the mighty Cobb Blackheart, lie dead at your feet. At the end of the wide alley, shouts in the direction of the street alert you to the fact that the melee has not gone unnoticed. You begin to wonder what Solundor will dispel his grand illusion when the surroundings suddenly begin to shift and blur. Alright, I'm going to end this one here. Thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Next time, hey, we only got 9 more. We might be able to make it through all 9. If it's going fast, I will try. If not, we will cut it in 2. So thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Peace.